Chapter 15, Not This Time. Now it helps to have some context behind why things often go astray. And in the wilds of Billy's mind, that was exactly what he was thinking as he lay on the sand next to Chandra. What in the world have I done? He thought silently, still and breathing lightly, as Chandra lay there still speechless and reveling in the moment. She wanted him again, but he moved aside and sat up when she touched him. He didn't want to be anybody's rebound or excuse for not facing their own demons. And in his heart of hearts, he knew Chandra was running away from Sky and all the demons he had around. Yes, she was amazing, and he might even consider sleeping with her again, but he knew deeply that wasn't the answer. He knew without a doubt in his mind that he let emotions and sexual energy carry him away. For he knew that this wasn't the answer. He knew Chandra wasn't the one. She was someone, and that was for sure. Soulmates show up in many different ways. And sitting on the sand, feeling the pain rise in her heart, Chandra knew it too. Billy Tavish was meant for someone else in this lifetime. And she still felt it was her duty to make it all work out for him. Now, Billy was a perfect gentleman and loved women. He was tender and caring, and he knew how to treat them. He just let that side of himself go far too long, and it had made him weak to almost anyone who might show him some affection. He didn't discount the sparks they had just made, but he knew sparks could be short-lived. He wanted the long return, the slow dance, and the lover. He wanted her, Laura, he concluded and confirmed yet again. "Hey," he said, gently taking Chandra's hand. "It's all good, okay?" "Are you sure?" she said, trying to find the right words while trying not to break down again. "You gotta be sure, because I don't want to lose your friendship," she said, tearing up again. "I'm sure," he said, "but we can't do this again." "I know," she said quickly. "I know, but we were really good together," she said, almost whispering it. "I know," he said, feeling the power of their lovemaking rise up in him again. "But never again, okay?" "Okay," she said, pulling on her clothes and standing up to smooth herself over. She moved closer to the shoreline and stood, sobbing silently while Billy picked up the blanket and pulled himself together. He went to stand next to her at the shoreline, and in a silent reverie, they both watched the sun lower closer to the horizon. As it touched the surface of the water and silently dipped below, they get to see the green flash lit up the horizon for one special moment as they continued to silently watch. Then the fog started to roll in and the temperature dropped. "Let's get you back to your hotel," Billy said, turning away from the water. "You're going to freeze out here." She was barefoot and shivering, and even in her 6-foot frame, wild hair and all, she seemed very small to him at the moment. He really wanted to care for her, but he didn't and wouldn't ever go there again, he kept telling himself, no matter how good it felt. He only hoped that Sky never found out, and he wondered if she might unwittingly bring it to Sky's attention somehow to cause jealousy between them. But he realized he couldn't live in fear, and he knew she would do the right thing. Chandra turned to go and looked at Billy, deeply processing all that had transpired. "Forgive me," she said. "I made this happen. I wanted it so badly that I couldn't help myself. Please forgive my selfishness," she said, feeling that he would. "It's all good," he said, smiling. "Let's go now." They made their way back to the car, and Billy was careful not to make too much contact with her as they traversed through the sand. Once in the car, he dialed up the heater and sat warming his hands over the air vent before putting the car in drive and pulling away from all that had transpired on that shoreline. Chandra wanted to bring up Larimar and get on with that conversation, somehow thinking that her efforts there would atone for what had just occurred. But she felt it was better left for another time. Soon, she thought, as her guides, who never judge anyone or anything, lovingly tapped her shoulder to let her know they were still around. She had a deep feeling that Larimar would be getting closer to Billy in proximity very soon. "I think your lady's coming closer to you. She's coming home, in a sense," Chandra said, pulling her bag off the floorboard as the Firebird pulled into the entrance of her hotel. "Can we talk about this again tomorrow after I've cleared my head?" she said, hoping he would still give her a chance. "Sure," he said. "Let's meet again for lunch. Somewhere different this time, he said gently. She didn't know whether to hug him or just get out of the car. He got out and walked around to help her out. At the touch of their hands, he was careful to quell the sparks that passed between them again. He hugged her gently. "I'll call you," he said as he touched her hand where the two had met. "Okay, good," she said, hoping she didn't have to talk to Sky tonight. "Okay, tomorrow then," she smiled and turned away, walking inside. Once inside her room, there was no holding back the flood of tears, remorse, and strange passion that she now felt. Somehow through it all, she still felt something more for this man, and she realized she was treading on dangerous territory. It was late, and she thought Sky might be calling soon to see how everything had gone. And he would, she thought, be sizing her answers up and down, looking for anything that might trip her up and bring this sacred secret to the surface. She had a big decision to make, and one she didn't take lightly. She must bind this love. She and Billy must have had past lives together as lovers, but she knew as she tuned into him now that his Akashic record and hers were deeply intertwined. Did she really want to break that bond between them? If she didn't, then this was just going to keep happening. Her attraction would continue to grow, and they would come together again, for she would unwittingly summon him again. She knew it to be true. But to do the energy work to free them of this soul bond seemed daunting and obscure. She didn't want to lose the feeling, the connection, but she knew if she didn't energetically break it, that she couldn't go on having another lover ever again. For in her heart and soul, she would always be tied to him, and him her. And while he wasn't and hadn't been dreaming about her since he was a teenager, she knew that many lifetimes carried many lovers, and their time together must have been sealed with a blood pact. This was a pact that could only be broken with deep magic, and she still wasn't sure she wanted to sever its ties. So, vowing to think about it again another time, she lay down on the bed and fell into a dream-filled sleep. Chapter 16, Blood Pacts and Undying Love. It is time to leave the parts of the story that no longer resonate with kindred souls. For now, we step into time without time and space unbounded, to show you that anything truly is possible when fate and hope are intertwined. Dreams are real, and the dreamers, often in their slumbered state, see things that cannot possibly be explained by the waking mind. And in this dreamland of sorts is where Chandra Rose wandered about the muddled moments of time. She knew not whether it was past, present, or future, but one thing she did know was that she was being shown these things for a reason. Her dream guides never took her anywhere if there wasn't profundity and a clear and good reason for her to be there, and so she muddled through the fogs of this dream state, intent on receiving answers to so many things her young heart wanted to know and understand. Why had she been brought here to Billy Tavish? What bonds, what bonds, what, I don't know, did his soul hold over her and she to him? And how did Larimar McDougall, for she now had a name, play into this whole sordid affair? Her dream guide, Antarin, took her deeper in, and in her ability to track her dream steps, Chandra recognized that she was in Avalon, of all places. She thought she had put that place behind her so long ago, but here she was again at the lady's feet, begging her to take back the blood pact she herself had placed on the young couple, for she knew now that she wanted him for herself. But as the lady of the lake eyed her with great sadness, Chandra realized it was too late. She had done the young king's bidding and bound him by blood to his queen, for there was never to be another in this life or other, and the blood would seal the pact and make it so. But the king, Chandra, as a high priestess of his court, had secretly admired him since they were children. She was to be his consort, and she had done her fair share of magic making and incantation to make it so. Oh, they had shared many a tryst under and over and back again, but then she had come along, the daughter of a wealthy knight, and that had changed everything. The king only had eyes for her, his sweet Herkimer, and Herkimer could only have eyes for King Garner. And so it had been. And then he had shown up in her chambers. No, not to bed her as she had hoped, but to ask for the blood binding. Her heart was ripped asunder, but she did it anyway just to please him. Chandra awoke with a start, damp with sweat and tears. She knew now what had drawn her to Billy and him to her. She also knew that if this blood pact still existed, which in her dream it seemed to be so, then there was nothing stopping him from finding his love of lifetimes. Larimar McDougall was looking for him, although she barely realized what kind of magic she was doing to make it so. Chandra sat up in bed and moved towards the window. Her heart felt broken in so many places, but she knew she must do the magical energy work to free her spirit from Billy Tavish. She was not his to have. He had betrothed himself to another, heart, soul, blood, and stone. She had even taken the oath of Avalon to have the extra power to sustain the binding over lifetimes. No, she had made her bet a long, long time ago, and no love or lust or whatever it was that drew her to Billy was going to make any difference. She pulled out her clearing crystal, a large, clear quartz crystal skull that she only used for the most potent magic. She held the dragon skull up to the light of the moon, and with deep, deep sadness, she asked the dragon to pull the love she had deep in her heart and send it away. She didn't want to know where the dragon would send it. She just didn't want to feel it anymore. The dragon knew exactly what to do, yet it almost hesitated a moment to ensure she really was serious. It knew her heart's yearnings, and it also knew that what would be left in its space would feel foreign and dislocated, like a piece of her was torn away. Chandra appreciated the thoughtfulness of the dragon, but she waved her hand over the skull and proclaimed her intent again, and in a brief flash of light against the moon, the skull extracted the love she felt for him and sent it far, far away, galaxies away. And Chandra dropped back into the bed as the skull rolled against her pillow, and she wept, allowing the love demons that had possessed her heart to be banished to other realms. She felt empty and knew it would take several days for her to recover from this healing. She didn't want to think about anything more at the moment, so she pulled her phone out and dialed room service. If nothing could quell her inner heart fire, then she must quench her thirst another way. And ice cream always helped.